Okay, welcome to Adventures in Visibility. Today we're going to talk about deriving free web traffic to your site so that you can boost your visibility. I'm Denise Wakeman, your host and guide to better visibility on the web, and today I am thrilled to finally be featuring someone I've been following forever, and like one day it went, oh, Denise, duh, get her on your show. And that is Ana Hoffman of Traffic Generation Cafe. So welcome, Ana.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Denise. Good to be here.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you're here, and I know that you've got a ton of information to share, but I just want to, give a little sort of backfiller here about why we're talking about traffic. And that, the thing is that we often think about traffic, getting traffic to our websites as, this thing that's separate unto itself. There's traffic and there's content and there's all these different pieces. And when you're thinking about creating a more visible presence on the web, it's a holistic situation that we've got to look at. And that's why I wanted to really hone in on the traffic part and how it fits into the whole puzzle of building your presence, building your visibility, and creating an audience on the web, because it all works together, whether it's organic, whether it's paid, whether it's SEO, whether it's content, it all works together. So before we dive into the questions, I just want to say that if at any time you have questions for me or Ana about what we're talking about, feel free to post them. It's probably that way now. I always got to remember I'm flipping back and forth here. Post your questions, and once we are through with the interview part, we will take live Q&A from you, and you can jump on if you want, or just type them in. We have shy people. Nobody wanted to jump on and chat with me before you showed up, Ana, but that's all right. I understand not being camera ready, Okay, so Ana, you are widely known for your no-nonsense approach to generating traffic in as many free ways as possible. And so I'd like to just hear from you, like, how did you get started in that niche? What was it that really grabbed you with that specific piece of the whole web thing?
I didn't start out as a marketing expert, as you can imagine, because all of us start from zero and kind of land where it goes. So for me, I wanted to start an online business. My daughter was just born and I wanted to stay at home with her, so that was my motivation. Now, I knew absolutely nothing about online marketing, online businesses, nothing. So I've tried a few things just to see how it feels. I've tried things like eBay selling. I've tried some multi-level networking, just anything kind of just to see what's out there and what the possibilities are. And every time I jumped into a new thing and I kind of sort of miserably would fail at it, I would think, well, how is it that, I'm kind of doing everything that they're telling me to do, what they're teaching me, how to be more visible online, and yet it's not working. So that was kind of the first moment for me when I realized that just building a website or a page or whatever it is, it's not going to work. You still have to, it's like putting a store in a small mall, right? You still have to attract people. You can't just count on people walking in because you're there. So online, obviously, that works tenfold because no one will ever know unless you tell them they're there. So that's sort of what I was learning about internet business. And I realized that no matter what business I was in, I still needed to learn how to truly do marketing and how to connect the dots, as you were saying, Denise. How do I find out where my target audience is? How do I find out where I need to go to get them? How do I bring them back to my site? And what do I want to do with them once they're there? So I started just reading everything I could get my hands on about traffic generation, SEO, anything and everything that would help me learn how to place my website in the best possible light so that people would see me versus my competitors or, you know, whatever it is, other solutions to their problems than what I was offering them. So that's how it all started, you know, lack of knowledge in marketing and lack of traffic. You know, I'm an introvert by nature, which is very hard to believe because I'm on camera a lot, but I kind of almost force myself to be on camera because this is one of those things that I'm training myself to do, is to get out of my comfort zone and explore things that might not feel natural to me. Now I'm trying to remember why I started saying that. But anyway, so the main idea that I was driving is that wherever it is that we're doing online, you need to kind of, as you said, very holistically bring it all together so that it works in tandem to help your business grow.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, sorry, I'm getting some feedback, but I'm totally with you on that. We all start from nothing, from zero. When I started in '96, I mean, nobody hardly was online, so we had to, you know, make it up. You know, that was part of that. But also, I'm an introvert too, and I think that it's easy to get into our comfort zone, and that the internet is a place where it's easy for introverts to thrive, I believe.
Yes.
But there's this piece that you have to constantly be experimenting and trying new things. You cannot just fall into that one thing that makes you feel comfortable. So good for you for going on to video. I mean, I've, you know, done the same thing here. It's like, just gotta go for it, right?
Absolutely. And you know, the thing about traffic or visibility in general is that you have to remember there are two sides of the coin here. Number one, it's your target audience. You really do have to find the places where they hang out. You know, which cooler do they go to get their water from? That's where you need to be. But at the same time, you have a certain personality to deal with as well. So it doesn't always work out that, you know, if everybody's doing blogs and everybody's doing their own shows and it's not something that you know, doesn't sit near and dear to you, then I probably say it might not be the best strategy, even if everybody else is doing. Find something that speaks to you and still grabs a good chunk of your target audience.
Right, right. Well, and I strongly support people experimenting with things to find out if it's not for them or not, you know, whether it works or doesn't work. So, you know, and I think that is also, you know, video can drive traffic, and there are lots of other things. So, what you had sent me something about, you know, personal branding, web branding, and your site company branding. And I'm curious to know how you see traffic fitting into the whole branding piece, because that is a big part of building our businesses, is establishing a brand. But where does the traffic piece come into that?
Certainly. So when you are online, there are obviously so many different ways, so many different places you can be at. And especially when you're first starting, one of the questions that's nagging every new online business owner is, do I really need to be at all those places? Because it's just me, you know, I can't manage that. And the truth is, this is where personal branding comes in. No, you don't need to be in all places, right? But people do need to start seeing your face in your niche, showing yourself as an expert on the topic. And the more they see you online, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or Blab or Periscope or SlideShare, wherever it is that they see you online, it kind of creates this visibility picture that they start trusting you more because other people seem to trust you more, and other people seem to invite you to shows, and other people publish your guest posts. So that's the sweet spot for your business. You want to appear like you're everywhere. even though, and probably we'll talk a little bit more how to do that, to actually appear being everywhere without stretching yourself too thin, because that's a huge thing for most of us. Even 4 years into this business, I'm still, fighting my, spreading myself too thin so many times, and I'm still looking for different ways to maximize my personal brand and let it be all over without me working too hard for it. But anyway, so I wanted to talk a little bit about personal branding versus your company branding. So when you first start online, or even if you've had your online business for a while now, a lot of times people are not sure whether they should build their company as a brand and get that name out there, or the product, or whatever it is that you offer, a service, let's say, or should you be Denise Wakeman or Ana Hoffman and build the brand around your name so that later your brand kind of overlaps and encompasses your company brand. And, I've gone back and forth quite a few times, and I'm really realizing how personal branding is really paramount to any business branding that you can do. Because imagine this, today you are in a business of some sort, and a year from now something happens and it affects your business so much that you can't really stay in business. So then what? You have to close the doors and then start from scratch. But if you are someone who has branded your name and people trust you as an expert in a certain niche, and your business didn't work out for whatever reason it is, tomorrow you can start a new business, and you already will have a built-in following, people who trust you, and people who will listen to you. So that's why personal branding is really, it's so huge to your overall online presence and how much traffic you'll end up driving, because a lot of it is, you've done this before. You go on social media and you see people sharing posts all the time without ever reading them, only because they came from someone who they trust. So personal branding and a personal name is one of the biggest assets that you have to establish your business and drive more traffic back to your site. So definitely something that people fail to focus on a lot of times, I see, and yet that's such an important aspect of our business presence.
Right. And, as you were talking, I was like, yeah, I've done that. I've done that. I've done that. I've done that. And I think that, even though I wasn't as conscious about that process at some points in my business life, that it's absolutely right on that focusing on who you are as a person, because we all know that people do business with people. They don't do business with logos or company names. They do it with directly with a person. But I realized that in 20 years I think I've started 3 different businesses. They're all similar but have different names, slightly different focus, and my audience has followed me. And it's because of me, not whatever the name of the business was.
Exactly. It's sort of a bigger picture of it all.
Right. And even, like when Twitter first came on the scene in 2006, I joined early in 2007, and I joined as my business name at that time. And then that business dissolved, and I went on to my own, and I changed my Twitter to my own name. And I couldn't believe the response I got. Finally, it's your name, it's you. I was like, okay, well, if that doesn't help explain it, then I don't know what does. But so I think what the point you're making is excellent, because what you're doing, you're not just building an audience for what you're doing today. You're building an audience to take you through your whole career, whether you're working for someone else or for yourself.
Exactly. And I actually have a couple of good examples. For instance, I think most of you might recognize SEMrush. It's search engine optimization software, and it doesn't just focus on SEO. It does a lot of competitor research. It's really brilliant. But they're not the only ones in the area, right? There are different competitors that they have. And I'm approached by those competitors all the time so that I try their software and hopefully like it better than SEMrush and switch and kind of, start promoting their software instead. However, and I know that you have seen SEMrush team engaging in blogs, engaging on Twitter, social media, everywhere you go. And they have built their brand, their company brand, by being present as people. I have such a huge connection with so many of them that I would never even think of switching because they have that built in. I know who they are.
Right.
And it's so important that I don't know what the competitors come up with. I love them because I have that connection,
Right.
It's like
right.
your best friend, starts a business. Of course, you're going to support your best friend, not the
Exactly.
no matter what your best friend does, So anyway, so personal branding is huge for your online presence. And since we're talking about traffic, and that's the one thing that will drive traffic the most is the sheer fact that people know you, people like you, and they will follow you because of it.
Right. So along with the personal trust, it's about also, as you've alluded to with SEMrush, is that actual participation.
Yes.
Being involved in what you're doing online versus just outsourcing everything and not having any kind of personal connection. Your team or you as the business owner, if there's no connection, it's really hard to build up the trust and the traffic because people are like, well, they're just this brand. I don't know who they are. And if there's, why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because I know that's something you're also passionate about.
Yes, of course. So yes, another quick example that I wanted to give you, Eric Enger and Mark Sharpagan of Stone Temple Consulting. I met Eric Enger about 2 years ago. One of the questions that I asked him is, his company, Stone Temple Consulting, is a SEO-focused content marketing firm. And they've developed their clientele. I mean, they have huge clients, and yet I see Eric promoting the company all the time, going to all kinds of shows, doing a lot of social media presence. And my question was, why? You already have all you need, all the clients that you need. But what he told me, again, it comes down to visibility, because you don't build up your brand and your presence and then stop. Because if you stop, people will not remember who you are anymore. So that's why personally being there face-to-face with potential clients, with your followers, whatever it is that you're doing, personal presence is hugely important. And I'll let you in on a secret. That when I first started, maybe a year after I started, I decided that I'm going to do the smart thing and outsource some of the tasks that I had to deal with on a daily basis. And some things that I outsourced were smart thing to do, but one of them was responding to comments on my blog. That was not smart at all, because all of a sudden, she was doing a very good job at it. She had my voice, and she knew what she was doing. But then I felt so out of touch, because all of a sudden people would come back and comment, and I didn't know anymore who they were. I didn't know anything personal about them. I didn't know what website they came from. And because I lost that kind of connection, I noticed that people didn't come back as much, because I'm just guessing, but that's how I would feel, that, they just felt like one of many, many people. It's like a conveyor belt going through this. There's no personal touch, no personal response. So huge mistake. And even now, I mean, trust me, social media, I know it takes so much time. It takes so much effort. But you have to do it, because if you don't do it, then don't do it at all. Because if you just share links, occasionally retweet someone on Twitter, for instance, right? It will do nothing for your business. So 15 minutes a day, let's say, without personally being there and personally engaging with people and responding to them when they have a question or when they share your post. If you're not doing that, then your 15 minutes a day are better spent elsewhere where you actually show up. So being personally present through everywhere where you want to touch people is paramount for your business. Otherwise, it's not worth doing it whatsoever.
Yeah, I completely agree. You're just like, we're on the same page here. And the thing is that it's not about doing social media. It's about building relationships in your business.
Exactly.
Right? And we have these tools now, and yes, there are lots of them, and it can be overwhelming. But what you're doing is actually marketing your business. You can call it that. And if you don't want to make that effort, then you really will not see the results that you expect or want.
Absolutely.
Or desire. It's you've got to be participating because that's what people are looking for now. There's just no way to get around the personal touch anymore. And it doesn't have to be all day. There's lots of tools that notify us when things are happening and when you need to make a comment or respond to someone, so you can be doing other things and then go check in on all those notifications. So, okay. So I want to talk a little bit about content, because you talk a lot about content on your blog. You have a lot of really deep, nitty gritty, detail in your blog posts. And one of them that I was reading is your blueprint for more profitable web traffic, your ultimate guide, which is just chock-a-block full of great suggestions and tips and direction. And you talk about leveraging content. So that's something that's near and dear to my heart. So I would like to get your take on it, is about why that's so important. I think that a lot of people want to write a blog post and move on, or whatever, write an article on Medium or on LinkedIn and move on. So why is leveraging important?
Definitely. So we all receive information differently. For instance, I am all for just reading a few bullet points, getting the gist out of it and moving on. That's how I process it best. I need to see it, I need to read it. Not like see it, but I need to see it in text. That's how I process, then it stays with me. But you have to remember that just because that's how you receive information the best doesn't mean that that's how your readers will digest it in the same way. Actually, many more percentage, I don't know what it is, but many more people are more visually focused. So some of them prefer images, some of them prefer videos. And if you don't have that to go with your content, then you're missing out. You're basically dismissing a lot of your potential visitors and readers and customers, because just because that's not, you're not set up for them, and, podcasts, Denise, a lot of people just want to listen to a podcast, they're driving from work to grocery store, whatever trips they're taking, they love podcasts. If you don't have that, they'll go to someone who does have that. So that's why when you create any piece of content, it's so important that it's not just words on paper. It's so important that you learn how to translate those words on paper into different formats. And again, I know time is always an issue, but here's how I do it, for instance. Number one, I hope you're not doing that, but posting every day or too much during the week is not a good thing, because your quality goes down the drain and your readers probably do not want to read a short blog post, once a day or once a week even. They'd rather read a more in-depth, very well-researched post once a month. So that's one thing. So if you keep posting, but your content quality is not quite there, stop that and go back to quality versus quantity. Now that you have, let's say, one quality post a month, a week would be great, but let's say one post a month. So you're writing your post and you have screenshots, for instance, to show people how to do the process that you're talking about, that you're describing, versus just telling them in text in black and white. So for instance, that's how I started doing my content leveraging. I did a lot of screenshots, a lot of examples to help people follow along. Then I realized that all those screenshots are basically pieces of content that can be posted elsewhere on Pinterest or Instagram. And once you have many of them, like I tend to do a lot of images for my posts. Now, it didn't come easily to me because, again, images to me, my just doesn't perceive information that way. But again, you have to step away of what's natural to you. So now every post that I do, on average, let's say it has about 10 images at least. Now that I already made the effort to take those screenshots or create those images, why not put them together and load, save it as a PDF and load it to SlideShare, and all of a sudden you have a presentation out of it. So if you start kind of thinking about it, what else I can do with that content that I've already created to reach as wide of an audience as I possibly can. And that's why leveraging content is so incredible, because I get traffic from all kinds of sources. Like, for instance, SlideShare is one of my favorite traffic sources. And the funny thing is that I keep talking about it. I keep telling everybody how well it works, and people don't do it. So, of course, on the one hand, I'm very happy for that, because that means that there's more room for me and you, Denise, there. But on the other hand, I just want to say, if you want to know how I do it, this is how. Go for it. So anyway, so content leveraging is something you have to train yourself to do. But once you do it, it's really brilliant, because you write a blog post, you have the images to go with it anyway, you put it all together as a SlideShare presentation, upload it to SlideShare. Then what I do is you just play the slides as a presentation, whatever software you're using, Keynote for Mac or PowerPoint, and then do a voiceover. Just read what's on the screen, and all of a sudden you have a video out of it. And now you're hitting a lot of different people that want to receive your content differently. And now you have your presence on YouTube, on SlideShare. Then you take that SlideShare and you post it as opposed to LinkedIn. And all of a sudden you have pieces of content just keep popping out of you without doing much additional work, because you've already done the major, the bulk of it. So it's really, once I got it, how to do that, it was like, the best thing since sliced bread, because it did so much for my business. And now going back to personal branding and presence and visibility, that's how people think that I'm everywhere, because they see my content in different forms everywhere. But truth is, it's like riding a bike. Once you learn how to do it, it just keeps, it's like a content factory. It just turns itself. And I don't even outsource anything. I do it all myself. So it's just a matter of habit, a matter of continuously doing it, and your presence will just blow up. And that's what I love about content leveraging.
Yeah. And what's so important to know about that is that you are reaching audiences beyond your blog, because your blog is not going to probably attract as many people as you can if you are targeting, LinkedIn or YouTube. SlideShare, I know SlideShare has a very devoted audience too, and it's a platform that a lot of people don't use, as you said. And hey, more eyeballs for the rest of us, right? And that's one of the things also that I love about video. So, looking at the content leveraging from a blab, for example, I mean, it's the most brilliant. This is what I do for a blab. So talking about content leveraging is that we're recording a video right now live with an audience. There's people asking questions. We're talking. I'm not writing anything. We're having a conversation, right? As soon as it's done, I get an email that's got a link to the video. And I can upload it directly to YouTube. Okay, now it's on YouTube. It's on Blab. Now I embed that in my blog. Okay, now it's on my blog. Then I make a SlideShare out of it. I add a slide in front and in back with call to action and my contact details. Now I have, and that's with a video and a couple of slides. It takes 5 minutes to do that because I have a template, and there you go. Now you've got SlideShare. SlideShare, you can automatically just push a button and it goes on to your LinkedIn profile.
Absolutely. And as you said, it just, once you get it how to do it, it's just the possibilities are endless. And
right.
Another thing, for people who are listening to us right now, for instance, you just started out, you don't really know that many people yet. How can you leverage your online presence? How can you kind of get yourself out there a lot faster than one person at a time? So for instance, you're listening to this blog, you can actually take the blog and make notes out of it. It's not your blog, you're not even a part of it, but for instance, you gear it towards people like me who like to read everything in bullet points and make a post out of it and then post it on your blog or elsewhere. Tag Denise and tag me, and you already have 2 people with established online presence that will be more than happy to share your post. And that's leverage. That's
right.
Leveraging our audience and what we've done online for years ahead of you.
Exactly. That's beautiful. Did you all catch that? Did you catch that? Yeah, and that's what we call influencer marketing, right? So you're borrowing the content that you have benefited from, repackaging it into a blog post, tagging the people you've mentioned, and then they're going to share it.
Absolutely.
I mean, I always do.
Like on when I just started using SlideShare, once again, it's amazing. Once my brain got it how to do SlideShare, I started seeing presentations in everything I read. So I read once Neil Patel's post about Facebook updates and how to, like 10 tips about Facebook updates. And to me, it was, SlideShare presentation. So I put the SlideShare presentation based on Neil's post, not my own. And to date, that SlideShare presentation, I believe, has close to 300,000 views on SlideShare. 300,000 based on somebody else's post. Of course, I gave Neil credit, and of course, I emailed him to let him know that I did, this presentation. So I got some leverage out of that. But it's amazing how much content, your own and somebody else's content, you can leverage and put out there. And eventually, your online presence is just people see your name everywhere they go. And funny example I have, my daughter got a guinea pig recently, and not my favorite animal, but I just fell in love with this one because he's just so cute and so adorable, and my daughter loves him. What can I say? But the thing about guinea pigs, you kind of have to wash them quite a bit. And my dad was very concerned that he'll get chemicals in his eyes or whatever it is. My first reaction to that was, I know, we're going to wash it with Dawn, dish detergent. And why? Because they have those commercials where they wash wildlife,
That's right.
Creatures from all the. Yes. So Dawn is gentle on skin, yet tough on grease. It just like this. It clicked with me, and she said, "Why?" I said, "Because it's gentle on animals. Everybody knows that." But that's exactly how our online presence should work. People see you, and even though they don't come to your blog right away, next time they have a question about content leveraging, they'll say, Denise Wakeman, she talks a lot about that. I heard her all over the place. I need to go check her out. And that's what your ultimate goal is. It's not immediate foot traffic, because that doesn't always happen, but just building that presence, online presence, where people see you as Google of your niche. They don't go to Google, right. They go to your website. That's the incredible thing about building your online presence and leveraging for the future. I'm
really
today.
Glad you brought that up, because this is a long play. You know, this isn't, I mean, you will probably see immediate results to some degree, but what you're really looking for is the long-term results, the residual traffic that comes over and over when people find that content on the platform where they want to spend time, where they want to find the content. And before we open it up to questions, just, you know, why don't you talk a little bit about how you position your own business and site within that leveraged content, like for your calls to action?
So I'm not very brilliant with calls to action. I didn't do that. But so whenever you create anything, you should create it with a purpose. What do you need the traffic for? Just having traffic as your goal, that's not a good goal at all, because 100,000 people come to your blog all of a sudden, and you have nowhere to convert them, right? There's no call to action on your blog. So you always have to have a goal for that specific traffic. So whenever you are, you're building your presence on social media, what is your goal? Just for traffic to your blog, or to get them to opt into your email list so that later on you can sell them something? So there's always, it's never traffic per se. It's always traffic so that I could do something else, right? So whenever you are putting out any piece of content out there, you have to kind of see what the end goal for that content is. For instance, I'll give you an example. You may not know that I publish weekly marketing skinnies at Traffic Generation Cafe. And those are posts where I basically read through a bunch of marketing stories throughout the week. And I publish the ones that I think are relevant to an online business owner, online marketer. And then at the end of the week, I kind of package them in a nice post, and you can come to Traffic Generation Cafe, spend 2 minutes, and you'll know everything that happened that week in marketing. It's pretty, pretty nice. But when I do it, so I read a story, then I publish something about that story on social media. If I just ended at that, then I get nothing out of it, right? It's just a piece of story with a link to somebody else's full post. I get nothing out of it. So what I'm doing with those stories, at the end of it, I always publish a link to the marketing skinny category at Traffic Generation Cafe, so that people would click on that link. And it's amazing how many clicks that link gets. So they click over to Traffic Generation Cafe, they see category of marketing news, they see, wow, she does this regularly, so how can I make sure that I see this marketing news, because that's very helpful. So then there's an opt-in form right there on the page where people can opt into my email list and be notified the next weekly marketing skinny. So again, I take something that pretty much doesn't really have any direct connection with Traffic Generation Cafe, but I place a link there so that people can come back to my blog, get more value, right, and opt in. So whatever you post online, you kind of have to figure out why you're posting it, and if you were to get traffic, what you would do with that traffic. So the same goes to SlideShare, YouTube videos. There always has to be one call to action, and you have to be clear as to what that call to action should lead them to.
Yeah, that's exactly exactly what has to happen. I'm glad that you said, I really like the way you said that, traffic for traffic. It's not really, it's traffic so that, and when you can fill in that blank, then you know what the arc is for this whole process. So.
Right. And just one thing quickly, a lot of new business owners don't really know yet what it is that they would like their traffic to do. And if I can make one suggestion, start building a list, because even if you don't know right now what to say to your list, or, if you don't know why you're building a list, trust me, a few months from now, you'll get it, and then you'll be happy that you already have one. So if you have nothing else, start building a list and make that your conversion goal.
So I just want to get to some of the questions that have been posted before we open up. And Robert asked if you would talk about driving traffic to a new site that doesn't have any traffic yet.
Of course. So the assumption here is that the new site has something to offer, right? It has content, it has something solid where the visitors can convert. So I'll just assume that. So then what do? Number one, you need to listen. Go out there, go to Twitter, go to Facebook, find businesses in your niche and go through their posts, see how they communicate with their customers, see what the questions might be. Just be an observer for a little bit. That's huge. This is your research, basically. It will serve you so well, because now all of a sudden you're starting to noticing trends. Where do people hang out who want the solution to the problem, the solution that you offer with your business? So listening is incredible. Then once you kind of, and I'm not saying, you do this for several months. Who has several months anyway? But just so that you can get an idea of where people hang out that you want to bring back. And then after that, my next advice would be pick one network of any kind, whatever it is. Again, make sure that whatever network you pick speaks to you personally. So for instance, if you are very visual and you love YouTube and your target audience happens to be on YouTube, that's perfect. But pick just one network to start with. What I see a lot of new people doing is there are too many things out there, too many platforms. And again, they believe that they need to be everywhere in the first month of their business. And that's not true at all. Just start small, but focused. Because again, as we talked about, Denise, personal presence is what will build your business. Not automation, not blasting a bunch of links to people. That does not work. That has not worked in a long, long time.
That's right. Yeah.
So focus on one. Start producing content for that platform. Start, again, continue listening to people, continue listening to their needs and what they like, continue to build personal relationships. And by that, I mean, number one, always respond to all people who want to get in touch with you, who share your stuff. You have to be there and you have to personally thank them. I've been in business, for 4 years. I still do that all the time because it's that important. And a couple of months ago, I published a post. It was sort of eye-opening to me because I wanted to find out what daily routines people who are huge on Twitter have. And I mean, I'm talking about people with thousands, tens of thousands of followers. And what they all said, which is pretty amazing, pretty incredible, that their number one activity on Twitter is to check on their mentions. Even if they do nothing else, even if they have no time to do anything else, they check to see who mentioned their name and respond to them. This is huge. Again, I'm talking about people like Larry Kim, who runs WordStream and was named a Search Personality of the Year, I think in 2015. Busy guy, huge company, and yet, he will respond to your tweet in 5 minutes, I swear. It's pretty amazing. I don't know how the guy does it. And he does it himself. So that's how important it is. People who have made it by many people's standards are still doing it because it's important. So again, that personal presence on one platform, and I always suggest, just so that we have a number, 30 days, give it at least 30 days before you decide, it doesn't work for me, I'll move on to the next one. And that's fine, that might not work for you indeed, but you need to give it your all first so that you know for sure whether it works for your business or not. And if it does work, then at the end of 30 days, you should try to figure out if there is any of it that you can automate. Now, don't try to automate your actual presence because it does not work, as we talked about. But things like use Buffer to schedule posts, be smart about your posting. So those kind of things that you can leverage, that you can not leverage, I'm sorry, scale and outsource. By all means, do that. And once you did that, once you feel like, okay, I got it, I mastered that one platform, move on to the next one. And don't abandon the first one, but just build on it. And that's how you kind of do it. I did that when I first started Traffic Generation Cafe with Twitter. For like 2 months, I did nothing but Twitter. Oh, the results I got, I loved them, and I was brand new to online marketing.
Yeah.
So it does
and
work.
I think it's important, again, what you're saying, I keep saying everything you're saying is important, but it is starting with one and then mastering that, or getting it comfortable and then layering the next site on, or the next social network on. Because once you're comfortable and have a habit on one, then you can maintain that while you add the next one. So that's essential in my view as well. So Bob is asking, do you think Pinterest is good for business to business? And I assume he means traffic.
Yes, absolutely. Of course, absolutely. And I'll confess, I'm not a huge expert on Pinterest because, once again, I don't think in images, but I know that a lot of people do. And the great thing about Pinterest is that visual people go there to discover content. So they might have never heard of you, your business, but it's like Google of images. They go there, and if they need to learn more about blogging tips, they can look that up, and all of a sudden your images come up. And this is the first time they hear about you. So of course, it's incredibly important for any business to establish presence of some sort on Pinterest or Instagram. And again, one of the reasons for that is that those are, especially Pinterest, is one of those networks that people will start sharing images from your blog without your active encouragement. You give them a button, a Pinterest button, and people who like images, they'll start pinning them without you doing much of anything. So that will start building one of those side effect traffic, that you don't actively work on, but people help you build. And again, one thing that I've learned about Pinterest drove me a little bit crazy at first. It's really not all that social. There is very little social interaction. And then I'm thinking, well, that's great. That just means that I don't need to spend as much time on Pinterest building the presence. It just kind of happens. I'm not saying you don't need to do anything active. You can certainly help it along by pinning other people's images as well, and kind of creating that presence. That goes without saying. But Pinterest is really one of those very hands-off, in many ways, networks that just keeps on building on itself.
And the thing now, you brought this up, that you create, up to 10 images for a blog post. Well, if you're not pinning those images, then you're not leveraging your content. This is another way. You're already spending the time creating images. Now what's part of the routine for me, and what I recommend to my clients, is that when you're creating that blog post, you create least a title image, and you make that a Pinterest image and an Instagram image and a Facebook image and a Twitter image or whatever, so that you have it all done at the same time. That's why I love Canva, because you can do that magic resize. That's the best thing that ever happened for me. But it's part of the process now of blogging, is making sure that you have images that people can share, and you can control what they share too if you are paying attention to it. But that's for another question. So Bob has another question here that I want to bring up because I think it's a good one, and that is long form content better than short form content? And you touched on that about frequency and quality. So in terms of building visibility and building traffic, what's your response to that?
I think the best content, form content, is the one that your readers like the most. There's no such a thing. You can't just define and put content within a time frame of any kind. No. I'll tell you some of my personal opinions. So I see a blog post and it says in the title, blah, 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 in 8,000 words. I'm thinking, I don't have time for 8,000 words. Who does? So I think that the bigger blog post, the less likely it is to be read. Now, I've read a lot of research where the longer the post, the more likely it is to be shared. But shared post, it's great for social proof, but it doesn't get too much of anything. It doesn't. If people don't read the post, they don't convert, because usually I would hope that you have some calls to action within your post so that people can do something with it. Just personally, I try to stick with about 1,500 to 2,000, word posts that seem to be. Anything beyond that probably could be either fluff or could be 2 posts. So, again, not a rule of any kind. I just write. But what I've started doing recently is editing ruthlessly everything that I write, because there are so many words that I've noticed that we use that don't need to be used. So just cut everything that doesn't have to be there. Don't embellish. Make it more efficient for people to read it. And that will be one of the ways you can stand out, because trust me, most of your readers will appreciate that they can get the information from you like that, and they will come back because that's how you write. So, well, that's my personal take.
Again, it's about testing too. I think that for each person that you've got to test what's working for your audience. Let me see. I saw one of these. Okay. This question from Jonathan. What are your thoughts on tools like Viral Content Buzz or other content sharing platforms?
I love the idea of them. Personally, I don't use them because, again, let's back up a little bit. Social proof is extremely important. When somebody comes to a blog post with 0 shares, they start thinking, whether they like it or not, that this post might not be good enough. Maybe I should just leave. So social proof is extremely important. And when you're first starting out, people don't know who you are. You don't have a huge following of any kind. So yes, you need help to get your posts out there, to get your numbers up, just to give your post, your site, more credibility. So I think tools like that, and especially Viral Content Buzz, I'm kind of partial to it because of Anne Smarty and because of her work. But it really does work very well. But just remember that besides bumping up your social media shares, it really doesn't do much of anything else for your presence. Most likely it doesn't bring any traffic. So again, as a side tool, absolutely. But as a major, don't have your hopes up that will build your business in any way.
I think that the actual conversions aren't that high from tools like that. I mean, I use a couple of them too, and I use Triber and Social Buzz Club, and I get some traffic, but not as much as when it's me, participating in something in the traffic generation more personally.
Right. And I do like Triber, by the way, because it has a bit more of a social network built into it. So you can actually build relationships on Triber if you put the effort. But again, any platform that you want to get good results from, you have to be present there. So again, if it's Triber, that means that it takes your time away from elsewhere. Focus on Triber and build those relationships.
Robert has another question. He's mentioning SlideShare is for business. What do you recommend for non-business presentations? See, I would argue with that. I would say you could put any content in a presentation there.
You can do a bunch of quotes on any kind of topic and put it on SlideShare. SlideShare is a very versatile thing. The one rule about SlideShare is your SlideShare presentations need to be very visual and good for them to be seen. But topic-wise, people consume content of all kinds. And I'm just trying to imagine, Robert, what kind of non-business presentations would you be posting at? Something about your personal life? Or, I'm kind of having a bit of a hard time figuring out, but I'd say yes, absolutely. You can post there whatever it is that you think.
Yeah, one of the things that we always have to remember, I think, as business owners, is that we're also people that have lots of other interests. It's like when you were talking about the guinea pig, I thought you were going to tell me that you did a SlideShare presentation on how to clean a guinea pig. I mean, really, I was waiting for that because that was how the connection started. And I was like, oh, did you do a presentation about that? So we're just about at the top of the hour. And I want to ask my final question that is always my favorite. And that is, what is your most memorable adventure? Whether it's business, travel, whatever.
There's so many of them. I'd say, well, one of the biggest personal adventures would be having a child. That's unlike anything else in life. That was pretty exciting. So my daughter just turned 9 yesterday. And she was one of those moments where you take her anywhere. I let her eat cupcakes for dinner, for goodness sake, because, her day. But I was also kind of just pondering on the fact how much children change our lives, and how much business is not my #1 priority whatsoever when you have children. You'll probably understand that. So that's probably one of the biggest ones. But also business-wise, I think having the business was the biggest adventure. And sometimes things get tough. You know how it goes. You feel discouraged. You feel like dropping it all. But one thing that I try to remember is that how much that this business has given me personally, because it gives my life a completely different purpose from anything else. So I love it for that. I love the fact that I have a lot of interesting things to talk about. Some friends you get together with, you ask about kids, the weather. I mean, what is there to talk about? They have nothing interesting going on with their lives. So my business just gives a whole new dimension to my life, and I love
agree.
it for that.
I think business is, one of the biggest adventures. I don't have kids, but I've seen the adventure that my friends and family have with their children. But I feel like my business is like one of my great adventures. So yeah. So where can people find you online?
trafficgenerationcafe.com, obviously, and just about any network, whatever network works for you the best. Look me up there. I'll probably
Ana with
be
one
there.
N. And I did post
Yes.
the link to your site in the chat. I want to thank you for spending time with me today, Ana, and with everybody here who's been watching. I really have enjoyed getting your perspective on these things that mean a lot to me, that I talk about a lot. It's nice to hear somebody else talking about them, going, yeah, yeah, yeah. So I really appreciate that. I'm glad we finally got to connect, kind of in person.
Well, this is as personal as it gets for us working online. So and I just want to make sure that people, some of you might have asked the question that we didn't get to. Just look us up on Twitter. You can find me at Ana Traffic Cafe on Twitter, and just ask me a question. I'll be more than happy to see if I can, do my best
you can
responding
just
to it.
hover over Ana's name, the little logo thing at the top, and that'll get, if you click on that, then you can follow her on Twitter and here on Blab too. It's very easy. It's everything's followable. So thank you for spending time with us today. If you would like to get advance notice of future Adventures in Visibility, you can go to adventuresinvisibility.com to sign up to get those advance notices. I always give notice, and I always follow up with when the show is posted on my blog and on SlideShare and on SoundCloud and on et cetera, leveraging it like crazy. And also, if you prefer to listen, you can get it as a podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, wherever you prefer. You can go to adventuresinvisibilitypodcast.com to subscribe to the site of your choice. And I think that's it for today. Please have an adventurous day. And Ana, thank you so much for being my guest today. I really appreciate it. Okay, great.
Anytime.
Okay, where do I press?